beat Unicorns of Love as their last little one game, and then they came back and they lost to TSM, Dig, C9, TL, Echo Fox, and it hasn't gotten any better. They have not won a single match since then.
They've got to staunch that bleeding somehow. For their sake, they hope they can do it today. And we'll see how they do in this draft up against Counter Logic Gaming. LeBlanc and Thresh first banned by CLG. Phoenix1 responds by taking Zach and Caitlyn off the table. Very standard to see those two banned off on red side these days.
Yeah, and also the Shen ban targeted at Alorum. Alorum is kind of, he's famous for his Season 3, 4, 5 performances where he was a solo queue player that played pretty much just Wukong. And then he got serious, joined Tempo Storm, and played more things like Shen top lane, Camille, Maokai. So there's high priority on these champions right now. I feel like the Maokai might be something that they take early on for Counter Logic Gaming. It's been played a little bit by them.
Kalista still open too,
That's
by the
true.
way. Two of those big, highly contested picks. And I like what Phoenix1 did here. As their last step in the first ban phase, they banned out Triss. So they're saying if you want to go for Maokai and you give us Kalista, you can't have the typical pick into Kalista in the Tristana.
Yeah, and I like that the Maokai gets picked up here, the flex pick. Alorum, smile and hover the Wukong.
A tribute back to his old self.
This counters Maokai, guys, I swear. But
Yeah, Wukong totally doesn't lose lane to every champion in the game.
But we'll see what they pick here. It's the Kalista most likely, like you said. And
We're gonna hover it again.
If everybody does it.
This is the new Phoenix1 trend. This is how you bring yourself good luck, good mojo.
Yeah, Gragas would expect that here. Omar God played it 2 matches in a row. And it's pretty much been what he has been playing. And Zix actually talked a little bit about how he's converted every jungler that has played for Counter Logic Gaming into Gragas one tricks. Happened to Xmithy. He converted Dardoch into a Gragas one trick, and now he's done it to Omar God. So they're taking it away. Mike Young will most likely be on that champion here on Phoenix1.
Let's see how CLG responds to that Kalista. Without the Tristana available to pick into it, I just feel like so often since Kalista has become popular and become meta again, Tristana has always been the go-to. Kalista, okay, we pick Trist every single time, no big deal. But with that smart ban away, that's going to put CLG on Jhin.
And I like that they banned it on red side as well, because the red side bans, and there's so many overpowered things right now, like the Caitlyn, the Zac. The Tristana, I actually think, is up there in that upper echelon. She's right under where you would have the Caitlyn, and then kind of tied with Kalista a bit, but I personally favor the Tristana more in the way that North American teams are playing, that Tristana should be higher priority as opposed to in the LCK, things like the Kalista are a little bit higher and pull a lot of bans.
Counter Logic Gaming going to go ahead, finish off this first half of the drafting phase by grabbing Taliyah for themselves. This is another thing we've been seeing a lot more of lately, the mid laners being drafted before the second wave of bans hit. That way they don't have the pool pinched further. They can manage to get something that they really want for their comp as opposed to just picking among what's left. And Phoenix1 will respond by grabbing their own mid laner with the Corki.
Yeah, we're seeing mid laners be picked this early on and supports being picked very far down the draft, because that is what dictates the bottom lane. And because you can pick either the range or the melee matchup now, there isn't really that neutral support that you can play into everything. Thresh is kind of the one that sticks out on this patch and gets banned away almost every single game. But I like how teams are adapting and saving it instead of like counter-picking top lane and stuff like that. Phoenix1, I do expect them, though, to go with a blind pick here for their top lane if they're banning Fiora, and last pick their support.
Fiora banned away to prevent that tank busting power. Tank's so popular right now in the meta, so strong. If you're any bit aware of League of Legends personalities and social media, you've probably seen a lot of commentary from different high elo players about the tank meta coming back recently. So Fiora, a potential counter to that will not be available this game. Cho'Gath banned out by CLG too.
Yeah, I wonder where the Camille is as well, because both these top laners actually play Camille. I remember Darshan was one of the first people to ever pick it up and play it on stream and was very big on it and has played it recently. Whereas Alorum, it's his second most played in solo queue, right behind the Shen, which was banned away from him. So if they go with a blind pick Camille, some of the counters that people have been playing, like the Kled, the Renekton, aren't as favorable in the meta right now, and people kind of push more towards tanks. So we'll see if they actually go for the counter pick because the Maokai's a flex and pick their support here for X Special, because you could still go with a Braum, an Alistar, pick something very early on. Is it Mike Young actually? Okay, it's a Gragas top.
That's a little bit different.
Yep.
Gragas in the top side, Mike Young on that playmaker with Lee Sin.
Yeah, and that's actually really interesting because that Gragas really kind of became just a jungler after Cinderhulk changes, and people started taking that on him instead of Runic Echoes. And really have not seen him top almost at all. I'm gonna check some pick rates for this week right now. Gragas actually has been played only 2 times top, and he has been played 29 times globally in the jungle this week. So very, very rarely. That is under 10%. That is very, very low.
CLG are going to respond to that top lane Gragas, that unorthodox pick, by grabbing a Renekton for themselves. Darshan will be on that one, trying to go mano a mano with Alorum.
And let's talk about like how the draft is shaped up so far. Because the Taliyah for Huhi, he says this is a neutral mid laner that I can play into anything, and they don't want Pyrian to have it because it's one of his best champions, if not his best champion, because he helps his team close games. He'll use the wall very effectively, and this also helps Huhi roam a whole bunch. So having that for him is very good, and the order that they picked it in as well to prevent Pyrian from being able to blind pick it was good from CLG. But then Phoenix1 with the flex, get Mike Young on Lee Sin. He was called the Lee Sin one trick when he first came in. He showed us that he's got more than just one trick, but the tank meta kind of took over, and now they're going for anti-tank. Oh, nope. They're actually going to swap it over. So no Trundle. Bard is in the house. But yes, Mike Young going to be on an aggressive jungler, and that's what Phoenix1 has struggled with, was a bit of that tank meta shift to the jungle. Mike Young wasn't able to influence the early game as heavily as he used to, and now they're just putting him back on an aggressive jungler, and we'll see what the rookie's able to do here.
And that's some of the commentary that we heard from Mike Young, asking him about his thoughts on the newest patch and kind of how things went for Phoenix1 previously. And he said he thought he may have overcorrected a bit for the meta, wanted to go back to more of that high-tempo play, some of those champions that people expect to see him on, and Lee Sin definitely fits that bill.
Yeah, and I think that that's the big thing for Phoenix1 is I was looking at their gold at 15 and gold at 20. They're actually 9th in terms of gold difference, so they average down very far at both the 15 and the 20-minute mark. So if they can shore up that early game and hit those points where we've seen this team do well. We saw them before Rift Rivals. We saw them as they picked up Mike Young, and then they went to Rift Rivals and went 4-2. So the team has had those good performances. The question is, the ceiling, we know it's very high, but can they even start getting up that ladder towards it?
We were asking these kinds of questions as well, coming back immediately from Rift Rivals because it was the halfway point in the split. And everybody was saying, look, they're down in the standings. Things are looking rough for Phoenix1, but with how they looked, they can still make a run. It's a hard road, but they can get there. And now, sitting in 10th here in week 8,
yep,
that road has been closed. That's no longer open to Phoenix1. Right now, they've just got to try and get as much out of these last few matches as they can.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for them, though. They're up against CLG, who's trying to tie again for first, and Counter Logic Gaming have only dropped 4 matches. There's been some talk about CLG being like inconsistent, and I actually very heavily disagree with that, because I feel like Counter Logic Gaming, when you look at who they've won against and who they've lost against, they've smashed all the teams below them in the standings. The only 4 match losses they have, 2 of them are Immortals, who are the #1 team. One of them is Dignitas, and the other one is TSM. They've 2-0'd Cloud9. They've gone 2-0 against every other team below them, and this is the big question here, is can they beat those top-tier teams? They're taking care of business against the bottom ones, and they are going to try to do that today against Phoenix1, but they need to ramp up Omar God, because next week they play Dignitas and TSM, 2 teams that they haven't beaten this split.
Right, those are 2 out of the 3 names you listed as CLG match losses. So Omar God has got to get himself up to a level of top-tier competition and fast. And yesterday was a good sign of that. Omar God was more than capable of doing his job and fulfilling his role on CLG, as they had 2 very convincing, very fast wins against Team Envy. Omar had some awesome engages. The body slams with the Gragas, the casks were well placed to make sure he separated people. Now we're going to be seeing him on that Maokai, see what he can do with a different pick, especially up against Mike Young. Yesterday, going up against Envy, you're up against a jungler-centric team. Today against Mike Young, you're also up against a team.
But look at this right here. Phoenix1 are actually going to go invade, find nobody, find that the red buff hasn't started, and so it's going to be Omar God getting a solo, just sapling leash on his own top side, and then it's Raptors for all of CLG. They're actually taking all the small Raptors away. They leave Mike Young with the scraps there.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, they saw. So basically what CLG said was, we're going to use Omar God to just start his jungle, so you aren't wasting his time, and we're going to use Renekton and Taliyah to go do the Raptors, and if Mike Young is there, we can test Raptors with like Taliyah Q, try to steal one away, slow him down. If he's on his red, which they warded, and he got leashed from Alorum, then they're just going to steal the little Raptors and get a level advantage, which is already manifested here with them pushing their lanes. You can see Darshan already up CS, whereas Huhi, same story, and able to roam, and he's going to ward this up, and they're tracking Mike Young. CLG is doing this so well, and they did it against Envy.
Yeah, watching CLG's gameplay against Envy was a lot of fun because the team never stopped. So many times you see a team get an advantage and then you see sort of this pause, this stagnation at some point or another. It happens at different points for different teams, but CLG was able to just run away with it. They worked as a unit. They moved for objectives. Kills weren't happening just because, hey, we can take that guy down to 0 HP. They were happening because there was a goal afterwards in terms of an objective. And if they can continue playing like that, I think even the people that say there's a lot of consistency issues for CLG will have cause to change their minds.
Yeah, and I love this because now they're going to know where Mike Young is. Basically, they crippled his early jungle start, so he couldn't do anything cheesy, do anything like a level 2, level 3, and it slows him down substantially. So this also kind of relieves Omar God of the duty of having to match him, possibly go for 2-on-2s or 3-on-3s, and they track him at the blue buff, and they know exactly where Mike Young is. So this is huge because Huhi has mid priority on over Pyrian. He's going to spot him? Nope.
Nope, just barely missing out with that Scryer's Bloom. Mike Young is over the wall, but it's one of the interesting differences. Ooh, speaking of interesting differences, that's not a big difference in the fan vote. 54% thinking CLG walks away with the win here, while 46% still believe that Phoenix1 can rise from the ashes of 10th place.
Yeah, Omar God kind of looking for a gank. The wave is in a place where P1 is going to have to shove to make this actually... I mean, and they're baiting now. That stun, they're going to try to go aggressive.
Go, but Omar God's right there, ready and waiting. Here comes the damage. First blood for CLG.
Yeah, he ended up just camping. Even if it ended up being a 3-on-3, they would have level advantage because Mike Young hit level 3 off his full jungle clear because they took the small raptors, which are worth so much EXP, and it felt really awful to be this Lee Sin, go for a full clear, and hit 4 off of Scuttle Crab after you've done your entire route. So yeah, Omar God just to kind of... he was planting his roots at this point. It took him forever. And then they baited Special in, and they're able to just CC lock him, and he's down.
No summoner spells used by Phoenix1 on that either. They knew that he was dead to rights. No flash attempt, no heal coming out from Arrow. Mike Young now in enemy territory. Omar God starting this fight off.
Yeah, but top lane, Darshan has priority. Mike Young's going to have to flash.
He flashes to get himself away. Does manage to escape. That sapling will run after him. That is big old sapling. Mike Young gets back over towards his Raptors, though, but Omar God doesn't seem to be done with him quite yet. Mike taking a lot of damage.
I know, he's super low, so they're going to contest this. They're just going to walk up, and Mike Young has actually just been tracked. And Omar, yeah, he doesn't even care about the Raptors immediately. He's like, let's just track him, make sure nothing happens. He's going to take these away. And this is perfect from CLG. This is exactly what they want to do to Mike Young.
And this is the same thing that we saw CLG do to Lyra versus Envy.
They're going to go for a Lorm here. They're going to punish the new guy on the team. He's low in terms of his mana. They're going to try to pick him up here. There's the empowered stun.
Darshan getting that stun off. More damage, more CC coming through, and Darshan manages to get himself out before the turret claims revenge. Nice move from CLG.
And the only summoner spell that's blown in that entire exchange is the Ghost from Huhi. Alorum just gets picked up there. He's going to go for, it looks like Sunfire first item. Actually, he's selling. Trying to reevaluate. We'll see. What do you want?
To stop Arrow's back.
That's going on in the bottom lane. Yeah, Arrow's trying to back here, and it's been Aframu just stopping it constantly. They'll push another wave, and that's going to be a CS advantage for the bottom lane, CS advantage for the mid lane, and the top here for CLG. They're slight right now, but we'll see what happens, because Kuki, I feel like his pressure has been enormous. He's had Pyrian under turret the entire time, and that early Raptor start really just kind of paid dividends. It slowed Mike Young down. They were able to track him, and then Huhi and Darshan both got level 2 first and pushed the lanes in.
And one of the conversation points that we've heard about these new waves of tank junglers as opposed to their predecessors with the Lee Sins, the Elises, the Kha'Zixes, the Ringars, is the tank junglers don't have that super early presence and level 3 gank that happens at 3.5 minutes. But when you have a team work together like this, it's just like you said, you completely shut down Mike's early gank path. He can't do it either. So then the tank gets time to scale. He gets time to build up that power through things like the Cinder Hulk and the Righteous Glory and the items he's going to find. And if Mike Young can't start snowballing things for Phoenix1, especially with how much this team needs him and depends on him to get that going, they're in a rough spot.
Yeah, and I love CLG's early game. They're level 1, once again. Like, we used to call this team like the best level 1 team in the league. all the time because they're invades. But I feel like that level 1 was super clever from Counterlogic Gaming because they either contest the Raptors and their own jungler isn't slowed. They slow the enemy jungler no matter what if he starts on top side. And even if he starts on the bottom side of the map, you took his small Raptors. So I feel like CLG had a pretty well-rehearsed level 1 there that with the Maokai will pay off every single time that you do it, unless there's like 3 people sitting in the bush there countering. And I absolutely love that from CLG. And I gotta say, like, I've watched a ton of scrims, and a lot of people don't try level 1s because you ruin the entire scrim, right? People are trying to learn matchups. If a level 1 goes awry, you're like, now I don't know what this matchup is. I don't know this patch or this champion, what it's supposed to do. I'm like 2 kills up or a kill up. Is this really how this goes? And people want that knowledge because they want to play from a neutral place in scrims. But CLG somehow find time to constantly pre-plan level 1s and have clever strategies to actually put people behind.
And when people don't practice it, then you really are caught off guard because you don't know what to do when you're not able to have the start that you need, when you can't start at your own rapid.
Because people get stuck in a standard level 1. They go, all right, this is how we're fanning out, this is what we're doing, and Counterlogic Gaming say, well, that becomes meta, we're going to counter that and find an active strategy.
Logic. That's why they were named that. But Pyrian, with the package ready to go, picks himself up the blue buff too, takes the blast cone, Hoo-hee. Seismic shove, not quite placed where he needed it to. Even if they were able to make a move onto Pyrian there, the package means he'd almost certainly have an escape, but he would have to burn it to do so. Hoo-hee, 87 to 82 in terms of farms. He's still having that slight lead that you mentioned earlier, but the pressure still remains his. Mike Young does have level 6 now. Dragon's Rage means if he can get the angle, he can make one hell of a gank happen. Package fired off, as there's no real opportunity to use it for a play. That's kind of the fate of Corki, though, early on in the game. A lot of the times, it just forces your opponents to play back a little bit while it's active.
Yeah, it was just used there to get that ward and have safety. Mike Young, though, wards, finds Omar God, who's level 6, and he's kind of hanging out looking for a play. He knows he's stronger, and his laners are stronger as well. CS advantage very heavily in the bottom side of the map due to that early kill, and the top side, Alorum's actually kept up with Darshan despite the matchup and also despite the fact that he got ganked early on too.
And despite the fact that he's still new to playing on this big of a stage, right? This is a guy that you saw, like you mentioned, 3 people rotate top to say, hey, gang up on the new guy.
Yeah.
Give him a hard time. Just try to take advantage of this. Tilt him if you can.
I feel like Alorum should be your hero because he used to be a one-trick and he converted. As a Skarner main.
Maybe that just means he's a traitor.
No, man.
No.
You gotta learn. You gotta learn other champions. I gotta convert.
No, you gotta follow your heart.
No.
That's what you gotta do. That's how you play League of Legends. Oh, Irena's Pyrian.
There's
Gonna
Omar.
Be following his heart straight into a setup as Omar got a Hoo-hee. Try to take him down. The roots come through. The damage comes in, but Mike Young not finding the Q. Now he's got to get himself out of trouble here. The Arcane's here though. Comes in. The heal is used. Mike Young barely staying alive, but Omar God is bound up and brought down.
The roam there is what makes the difference as P1 kind of make the best of a bad situation. The execution there, they could have had 2. Mike Young unable to actually get Hoo-hee, and he didn't hit him. It just,
when you miss that Q, a simple mechanical error, the difference between a big payout and not. Very, very unfortunate for Mike Young.
Top lane, they're going to try to get this turret. Hoo-hee's going to roam. Alorum tried to push. He thought that Darshan back, but now he's going to get ganked.
Oh, Alorum caught out here. It'll be hard to escape from it, flash or not. He does pop that flash now. Hoo-hee with limited mana to chase this one, but yeah, threaded volley is enough. And even if it wasn't, Stixxay was there, ready to mop that up.
Exactly, and they're rotating because this top turret is about to go down, and even if Darshan was to complete his back there, and they would have been able to just have top side of the map, have tempo advantage.
Talking about tempo, I want to bring up the results of these two teams' games earlier this week, because CLG, when they had an early lead, they turned that into an early win.
It was like a speed
minutes in game 1 versus Envy. Now they're invading the enemy jungle, looking to... Mike? I don't know about that one. Deadly Flourish doesn't find its mark, but P1 might be able to set something up here. Omar still on the aggressive as Hoo-hee grabs himself the first kill. Curtain Call opens up, finding multiple shots onto the remaining P1 members. It will not get a kill, but tragedy for the P1 jungler.
What is going on? That's...
Don't know. The Q and then that?
Yeah. They just... What we've come to know from Mike Young is that he's got kind of that calm composure. He's able to execute in high-pressure situations like his Nidalee play against Immortals. And this is just uncharacteristic, but at the same time, it's becoming more and more characteristic because it's been kind of a while since Phoenix1 have picked up a match win.
I mean, you yourself brought up the fact that not since Rift Rivals have these guys been able to find it. They only have 2 game wins since Rift Rivals.
And it's just, I don't know if it's pressure. I'm not going to kind of spend a lot of time on speculation here. Mike Young doesn't have ultimate, so he can't actually, despite all of this great play here from Xpecial, not able to really do anything there and kind of turn it around, as all 5 members there from CounterLogic Gaming were on the top side jungle.
1-5 record as Lee Sin. So not the greatest numbers being put up so far. 3.6 KDA, so not a problem with that one. But one thing I also want to mention about Mike Young, because I like seeing the way that pro players react to different really positive or really negative experiences in terms of just their personal reactions to them. And after Phoenix1 got all that hype built up around him after Rift Rivals, and after everybody was on the Mike Young hype train specifically, he went on Twitter and he said, "Thank you guys for all the support. I'm so glad that I've been able to be this sort of hype guy for Phoenix1 and get you guys all excited. Even though things are going great now, rough times will come, and I want to work through those." So he did have that attitude you were talking about, that really good outlook on things that this team needs to have to improve from the position that they're in. But it does seem like things just aren't working out for this team as they continue to struggle to find the right move, find the way to secure these wins.
Yeah, and kind of a reality check here for Phoenix1. In terms of just overall, looking at where this team has come from, they're in 10th place right now. That's the reality. Even though they'll win some matches, they have 10,000 gold leads versus Echo Fox, they still are unable to close those games out. And this started happening near the end of last split. Even though they ended out in 3rd place, it was still a 5-game series versus FlyQuest. And even before that, there were still signs of who's playing, Meteos, Inori. And this team has just had a roster up in the air for a while. And Omar God,
again, going in, firing off the ulti, getting the roots onto 2. Now more damage coming in. Xpecial in a really rough spot. Afro move on the front line now. Xpecial taken down by Omar, the sapling lying in wait.
And this is just so all over the place. Xpecial also having a little blooper there with the Fate's Call, holding it for so long and then throwing himself against the wall. It's been all over the place, but CLG are just, they're not scratching their head like us. They're going, all right, let's go.
They're saying, okay, we got freebies here, as Stixay might give a freebie over to Phoenix1.
Oh, so much damage.
Kicked around, more damage coming through. Stixay still going to be kept alive. Afro can't save him, but now Darshan has mounted the counterattack. Gold goes his way as they make it a 1-for-1. Huhi in the mid lane trying to stay alive. Alorum going to be 3 versus 1. Destroyed, a double kill for Darshan.
Everybody's dropping around him, and Arrow is pretty much the only person who's been doing well in this game. Pyrian is also, kind of losing pressure in the mid lane, but I feel as though Arrow, the only remaining member from the spring roster of Phoenix1, the only person out of all these guys who played in that 3rd, 4th place match, is trying to carry this game in whatever way he can. He had a CS deficit early because of the lane and how it went with the aggressive support trading and Omar God showing up. But Arrow, the MVP of last split, has been struggling to return to that form all split long. And this right here, glad we're getting a different angle on it, because Omar God gets bounced in by the wall, gets a little bit of an extra gap closer there from Huhi. The root lands, and then Xpecial into the wall, into a root, into a sapling. That is a series of unfortunate events.
That's one way to put it.
That are unforced errors. That's what we're seeing here from Phoenix1. Unforced errors. They're not being put in corners or anything like that. They have execution errors right now. And I have to say, watching a game that has those types of execution errors, it always kind of makes you a little bit bummed down on the inside, where you're like, man, what if that had happened? Because it's so many in a row where you're like, this could have been super close. But it's just that, I don't know if it's nerves, I don't know what it is, because their season from Phoenix1, definitely they feel the pressure.
It turns it into a what-if game. What if the Q landed? What if the blast cone didn't get clicked on accident? What if Xpecial wasn't thrown into the wall?
And even if all those what-ifs go in Phoenix1's favor, CLG would still be ahead because of the way that they played the early game, the way that they slowed down Mike Young. So CounterLogic Gaming, they are showing that they want to take care of business again against the bottom team, and they want to end the week tied for 1st.
One little light shining in the darkness for Phoenix1. They do grab themselves the Ocean Drake, so Not the best. I mean, it's not like it's going to win the game on its own, but it is something. It is an objective. It is Phoenix1 making a proactive play for themselves and not just completely conceding the map to CLG because they're down 5,000 gold almost at this point. It'll be over that mark as soon as Afro and Stixxay grab this turret.
Yeah, they want to find something here because you have 2 people bottom from CLG, 1 person from Phoenix1. I feel like right now, P1 would love to try and go for a fight before that turret went down, but they didn't throw out like a Bard ultimate. They didn't try to get flashes. It seems like they're trying to wait because there's nothing really to fight over except for priority in lanes.
Phoenix1 also barely still holding on to that mid lane tier 1 turret. It's so close to dropping down below 25% HP. So if CLG can get themselves a single pick, if they can just out-rotate P1 even without killing anybody, they'll take that down very rapidly. And once that drops, that's going to open up the Phoenix1 jungle to more and more CLG pressure as they move up, place down wards, set up picks. And like we saw yesterday, like we've been talking about, this team seems like one that is not afraid to go for the jugular and in this game as quick as they can.
Yeah, CLG, like, we're seeing Stixxay. He's got the double lethality items so far, sitting at 36 armor penetration right now. And it'll go up as he levels up. But it's just, oh, sorry, that's the total lethality, that's correct. Currently negating 30 total. So yes, he's got a lot of penetration right now, and there's squishies all over for Phoenix1. They have the top lane Gragas, which isn't that particularly tanky at this moment at all.
Just Righteous Glory.
Yeah.
It does give armor, but it only gives 30. It's not a massive tanking item. Moderate utility plus tank hybrid. Yeah,
very few ninja toppies across the board. Mostly concerned with the CC of the Maokai. But yeah, it just seems like Counter Logic Gaming with disadvantage here. 2 items already completed for Stixxay. I feel like this is where you get your large advantages. Off your Talia having that split and being able to wall off areas, you can kind of get those tier 2s. But Stixxay having a really good game off of that early gank that he got and being in the right place at the right time for those picks. I feel like you can force stuff here. Use the ultis, start getting those tier 2s.
And look at CLG. They're all up there in the enemy jungle, except for Darshan. He's the only exception, split pushing on the other end of the map to provide that pressure. Everyone else setting down wards on the camps, putting down wards in the brushes, making Phoenix1 second-guess themselves every time they move away from the safety of a turret. And it's that kind of pressure that will continue to choke Phoenix1 out of resources and continue to put them in a spot where they really can't fight back.
Yeah, and this is just CLG pushing, playing their game, and they're forcing Phoenix1 to kind of not be able to play their own, but also adhere to CLG's, because I think the draft helped out a lot there with the Maokai, and the way that they played the level 1 and that they've continued to play this has just been CLG favored the entire time. And there's the wall. They're going to get the turret, just put the final finishing touches on it. But also I like that they've been kind of pushing Alorum over and over again. He's the rookie in the top lane. This is his first game with Phoenix1. You know he doesn't have possibly much scrim time or competitive time. And if you lane swap back and forth like this, people have to kind of hold each other's hands and say like, okay, where's Alorum going now? Not only do you have to take care of yourself, but Alorum needs to know where he needs to go at all points in the game. And that's huge, because if you're a second late on your rotation, if you're 2 seconds late, if your wards weren't set up properly, then your top laner gets left out to dry. And we saw what happens when they drafted the Renekton into him, and that they picked the Lee Sin and protected their support as opposed to protecting their top jungle flex. They were able to counter on CLG side, and they've been able to punish this Gragas all game.
And honestly, Alorum will be able to stand no chance whatsoever 1-versus-1 against Darshan with Black Cleaver, Blade of the Ruined King. This is the don't go anywhere near me without a friend Renekton build.
Yeah, this is the AFK Renekton farm side lanes, push in, try to get turrets, and be kind of non-interactive with your team. If you saw something like a Gargoyle Stoneblade or a Randuin second, or even a Titanic Hydra, I would say, it's like you're looking at more of a group up team fight, but Darshan wants to keep Alorum from team fighting, keep him in a side lane, because the way that Phoenix1 would possibly get back in is by having a good engage or a team fight, and the Gragas can help get those squishies in. But CLG also have that Maokai, so they're in a good spot to actually team fight themselves. But as long as you keep that Gragas off the side, you lower that potential of having those errors come through on Counter Logic Gaming side, getting barreled in.
Omar God's been stepping up on this pick. 2, 1, and 3, been a part of 5 out of 7 of the kills total.
Highest KP.
Having a good game for himself. And that's something that he was somewhat criticized for when he first joined CLG, as people are saying, well, what's he going to do if he's not on Gragas or Olaf? Because those were the champions that he was the most known for playing on his climb throughout, from Challenger to Scouting Grounds to all the different things he participated in before reaching the LCS. They were saying, is the rest of his pool as strong as those two champions? And right now he's showing, yeah, I can play Jungle Maokai too. That's no big issue. I can play the meta. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to be a top pro, you have to be able to play in every meta, play the champions that pop up. And you can see, you know, he's adapted. He's got that mentality, the team-focused mentality in the, hold on, going forward. Pyrion, though, in a bad spot.
Starting this one off, balking forward, but now the Root coming in from behind as the attack from CLG is going to absolutely rout and destroy Phoenix1. Omar able to find the damage, find the setup, find the moves, find the team fight. A double kill for Darshan, and CLG will get themselves a clean ace as soon as Alorum falls.
So clean from Counter Logic Gaming. Afro move, that was beautiful. The jumping in front, that was the stand behind me flash there from him. It was so well played to keep Huhi alive, because right there, Phoenix1 were going for broke. They didn't have good vision at all to know what was happening around them, and that was Pyrion valking forward. Everybody saying, let's just kill Huhi, take this Talia out, and then Afromu said, not today.
That was so all in from Phoenix1, and the bet does not pay off. Now CLG rewarded with not only the ace for 0, but with the Baron after the fact. If they can actually manage to secure this, it's getting a little bit sketchy in here, but they will find that for themselves, along with a 12,500 gold lead 23 minutes in. This is exactly why I brought up yesterday's results against Envy so many times, saying that if they play this game like they did yesterday, it's going to be a fast one if they get that lead. They got the early lead. They translated it into greater leads by securing objectives and controlling the map. They had one big play, and they just went for the throat.
Yeah, watch Afromu here. They're going after Huhi. As soon as this Faith Call goes in, bam! And he already has the E up, and they get shoved away. So Arrow can't do any damage there to Huhi, because that was the goal. That was the objective for P1, was to kill Huhi, and that does not happen as the shots come through for Stixxay to follow up. And I just think that was so well played and well timed from CLG. But now P1 are trying to, kind of do one to back.
And once P1 had committed to that, so many times I remember reading people complaining about Maokai's rework in his ultimate, saying, oh man, maybe Maokai's ultimate will actually reach its target by the time he gets reworked again, because people thought that it was such a bad engage tool, it was so slow, but it was used perfectly in that last fight. Now Omar's going to be starting things off again. Onto Arrow, getting the lockdown and the burst. Xpecial staying alive for now. They get the return kill onto Omar as Huhi throws up the wall to block away a re-engage. Darshan coming in 2-6-8, grabbing a killing spree onto Pyrion. It's a 3-for-1. Omar falls, but he trades his life for a lot from Phoenix1.
And that's going to be TP to the top side from Darshan because he roamed down. Baron buff. This game, it may potentially end with this Baron buff still on because they are so far ahead. Huhi has 2 penetration items. He's got 43 magic penetration on this Talia. He almost does true damage to Arrow, who has 47 magic resistance right there with the combination, almost just obliterating him instantly. And this right now, Flowers, it's a slaughter.
This is not even close. Phoenix1, 3-15. 15,000 gold down as CLG has taken 1 inhibitor. Moving on to the second here in the mid lane. Arrow trying to find a way to fight against this, but he just can't get close. His team is so far behind.
Yeah, and that's going to be Banshee's Veil. And CLG, they just take care of business versus the bottom teams. The people saying inconsistency, kind of around that time where they're playing the top teams or the teams that end up being top at the end. But we're going to try maybe Omar God's ultimate soon. It's got 5 seconds on it as he's running down mid.
All he's got to do is position himself in the very middle of everyone, throw that ulti out, and just create chaos, create a zone of control for his team. He's got the Knight's Vow and the Warmogs and the Cinder Hulk.
They're disgustingly ahead. Like, this is
this
actually ridiculous.
3,700 health at 26 minutes.
Yeah, this is actually ridiculous. Arrow is doing a decent amount of damage to him, but then the roots come through, the CC, the heal, and then Arrow just gets obliterated by Huhi there. And then Huhi cuts off the retreat. That's actually a pretty well-placed wall, except Darshan is hanging out, says, all right, minion time. And Xpecial doesn't get out, gets picked up, and Mike Young is kind of the only survivor there. But yeah, CLG, this is what you want to see as a CLG fan against a 10th place team. You want to be able to just completely wreck them.
It's not about winning, it's about the way in which you win. A lot of people expecting...
Winning is nice too.
Winning is nice, but when you take a win against a team that's significantly lower than you in the standings, and it looks really close and it looks really messy, you actually cast a lot of doubts on yourself as a team. Yeah, but CLG is not doing that right now.
It happened to Team Liquid where they had, or sorry, TSM, where they had a bad early game versus Team Liquid, and also lost Baron Control versus Phoenix1 2 games in a row, right? Those cast a lot of shadows of doubt on top of a team, but right now, CounterLogic Gaming, the only doubt that they really have right now is Dignitas and TSM. Is Omar God going to be ready for that? Is the team going to be ready for that? Even with Dardoch and the practice time that they had, they failed against those two teams that were near the top of the standings.
Here we go, pushing in for the last inhibitor of Phoenix1. CLG used the wall well, buy themselves enough time, and that Taliyah ultimate is just so darned effective at making sure you get those objectives. Alorum going in, going to be separating the team, but it's only Darshan knocked back as Alorum is cut down, and the first casualty of this fight. A rampage for who he has. Arrows before to flash away. The Bard ulti on to 5, but the damage comes right back through as soon as the golden statues fade. Mike Young goes down, a double kill for Huhi, a double kill for Darshan, and Purian barely hobbling away as the deadly flourish gets them.
Gonna get the last one there. Even though it was a 5-man Bard ultimate, it was just saying, CLG, you're golden, and they're gonna take game 1.
2.5-second delay on a team fight that results in a fantastic win for CLG. They've got to be feeling good from now.
Oh yeah, 28 minutes and 39 seconds on the clock there. Insane level 1 strategy from them to take away so much that crippled Mike Young, stopped Alorum and Purian from having any lane pressure, and then you could just play to the top side of the map. You could play all over that jungle, and then Omar God went bottom, the one lane that was not affected by the level 1, and changed that. So Phoenix1, from the start, had a deficit across all of their lanes, even their jungle, and that was what was so impressive about that strategy in the early parts of the game for CLG.
And when you have a deficit like that, you have to outplay in order to work yourself back to even ground and then take a fair fight from there. But we saw, as you mentioned, multiple unforced errors from Phoenix1 as well. It wasn't just CLG playing really well, which they did. It was Phoenix1 having a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and honestly, it was just so well played from CounterLogic Gaming in the start, and then the Phoenix1 mistakes started rolling through, right? They're trying to get something back. The kick from Mike Young into the missed Q. Yeah. That's like, man.
That feels bad. That feels bad.
Rookie of the split votes, where are they going now, right? Like, that's honestly, because there's some more competition coming through. Omar God is one of the guys who's also in contention for it, and he just kind of styled on Mike Young there because Mike Young was put behind, and then it seemed like the pressure got to him.
I want to take a look back, 23 minutes in, the CLG ace, this 5-for-0, so well done.
Yeah, this Afro move, the flash in front, and not only the flash in front, but the E up in time and the exhaust just in case to 100% guarantee that Huhi does not die there. And Mike Young trying to get a pass-through kick, but just shots all over. And that's a fight that's very difficult to track because there's so many great things going on at once, where everybody on Phoenix1 is trying to kill Huhi, and then at the same time, they're just getting obliterated in the backline. But that was Phoenix1 going for a fight where they had no idea what was coming. They didn't have enough vision, and CLG had control of that game, and that's why that was so close. It was a 20-kill to 3-kill game at the end. That is taking care of business there. That is CLG saying, let's go game 2, let's get out of here, let's get out of week 8 and into 9 while tied for first.
Yeah, CLG from start to finish. And by start, I'm including the draft in that as well, because CLG had an awesome draft. They managed to get themselves the Maokai. They managed to get themselves everything they needed to make sure their opponents' good picks weren't able to be fully realized. Arrow got Kalista, but they were like, hey, we don't really care. I mean, the Jhin for Stixxay did great work this game.
Yeah, Stixxay was able to get those 2 lethality items very early on, but I feel like Omar God helping him out with the level 3, level 4 gank bottom was really good, and this helped so much because this is the one lane that wasn't put kind of behind for Phoenix1 early, and then it was completely changed. Omar God also roaming with the team, pairing up with his solo laners to go top and kind of getting in here, and you can see he's fitting into the CounterLogic Gaming style of high tempo early, and then this turnaround here, the route that he gets as well onto Purian is also big. The flash route, harder to react to because Purian, if he sees the Maokai coming, can flash away, but flash route, even if the distance is like very close, just makes it less reaction available, and then he's able to peel, get some damage on Xpecial, Arrow, and the rest of the team there at the same time.
One great big blue mountain of a gold difference over time for CLG this game. seeing the damage Delta Champions graph. 5,000 difference between the Renekton and the Gragas in the top side as well. 12,000 damage, by the way, done by Omar, who out-damaged 6A.
Yeah, I mean, he got in those fights. The tank's doing a lot. Getting hit as well will return some damage. Actually, he doesn't have it. Sorry, that was Lorem who had the Bramble Vest. Sorry, the Sea Gragas, I'm like, oh, jungle, it's got to be for somebody. Just like, quick blip there. But still, at the same time, like, oh my God, like, this is a conversation that has to happen because Rookie of the Split, still, it was kind of like Mike Young's a shoo-in. Well, now there's Niski. Now I believe there's a Lorem in that conversation. And then there's Omar God, who has been jumping up, and he's on a team that is performing well. He's going to look a little bit better in terms of, they're going to win more games. And there's potential because if he goes up against Dignitas and TSM and is able to actually get CLG a first-round bye and looks good doing so, then he is a very real contender. And Mike Young has to kind of feel that pressure because that game was not clean from him at all. It's actually probably the worst game I have seen from Mike Young because he got put behind, and then it looked like the execution was off as well.
Everything just went wrong at once for Phoenix1, but now we're going to take a step away for a quick break. When we come back, it's Game 2 between P1 and CLG. Stay with us. You're watching the North American LCS.